You've already done that, ready to go. So we're going to start live streaming and hand over to Malika.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this wonderful event, the National Centre for Action on Child Sexual Abuse, and our annual report is being done today. It's so good. My name is Malika Elizabeth Rees, and I'm a member of the Adult College, and it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome Ngunnawal Elder Violet Sheridan to do a welcome to country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and what a pleasure. It's terribly short. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here on such an occasion, but it's something that I hold really deep to my heart, and my heart goes out to the survivors and to the victims that have survived. But really, we need to get our laws, our courts to understand. They have to protect our young people, particularly our young people that have been abused. But every day that they see that same person that abused them walking around the streets, the police do their job, and once the person gets to the court lets them out. I'm a big believer that we need to get more tougher on these people. I've got my little baby. When I take him, he's 10-year-old now. He reckons he's not a baby anymore. But when I go out to the shopping centres, I won't let him go into the male's toilets. I make him come to the female toilets with me. And he says to me, but I'm a big boy now, but if he doesn't want to go in there, I take him to the disabled toilet, but I always make sure I check before I let my babies go in there, because sometimes people reckon I'm overzealous, I'm too protective, but I've always said to my grannies as well, if you got that gut feeling and it says leave, you don't trust where you are, who's around you, leave and make sure you go to somewhere safe. But the laws need to be more tougher on these perpetrators, because our survivors, our victims, need to be protected. They don't need to see these people walking around the streets 24/7. So my heart goes out to all the victims and the survivors as well. I believe a welcome to country is a traditional Aboriginal blessing, symbolising the traditional owners of the land welcoming you. But it also shows respect for the first peoples of the land you are meeting on. I suppose it's a little bit about not going to someone else's home unless you're invited or welcome. I am a proud Ngunnawal woman as I carry my ancestors in spirit, walking into the future, teaching the next generations about the oldest culture in the world, my culture, the Aboriginal culture. I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any First Nations, all you First Nations people here in the room and online. But I'd also like to acknowledge all the non-Indigenous people here as well and online. In keeping in the general spirit of friendship and reconciliation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the land of the Ngunnawal people, my mother's country. And on behalf of my little nephew, Kevin, I brought him along, I had to pick him up from school. He had no choice. He's barred from playing games for the next 2 days. In keeping in the general spirit of friendship and reconciliation, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of Kevy, myself, my family, and the other Ngunnawal families, I say welcome, welcome. And I wish you all the happiness, and I'm really successful that we can do this together and make it safe and precious for our victims and our survivors. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Auntie Violet. What an absolute privilege to have you, and thank you for your welcome. And I would like to just welcome you on behalf of the National Centre officially. It's awesome to have the people in the room. It's awesome to have all of you online. We hope that we, are slick and clever and get through this in the right way, but we also know that you'll be patient with us if there's more to say or things take a bit longer or there's a bit of a glitch in the live stream and so on. We've got people with pink dots who are here to provide support if people are feeling concerned and needing to talk. We've got staff members here, we have board members here, we have awesome government representatives here. We're delighted to have you all, including the staff and especially our two colleges, the First Nations College and the Adult Survivor College. And I'm going to hand over to Malika, who's going to lead us today. Thank you.
Wow, what a big day. What a big day. We are all here acknowledging everybody's right to healing and recovery and protection. We are here unequivocally protecting and healing us all. We come together in common ground. We are seeking solutions. We are seeking for healing of people and for the prevention of violence. We are having conversations, trying to understand what's happened. We are creating advocacy. We are creating safe spaces for change and for holistic, integrated and accessible healing for all. So every one of us who is here, every single one of us online has a potential to create positive change in everybody's lives. So I would like to call up everybody in the colleges, the First Nations colleges and the Adult College to come and stand who wants to stand here together in unity and to support, because we are here for change. We are here for change. And the wonderful thing about this opportunity that we're doing now is that we're listening to victim survivors, because nothing is going to change until we hear the voices of those who've been directly impacted. And that is what is so remarkable, and that's what's so exciting about what everybody is doing together today. And we have been doing for the last 2 years almost, and will continue to do, because we can do so much together. So I would like to first welcome Tash to speak from the Indigenous College.
Walawani, everyone. Thank you, Auntie Violet, for your welcome to country. And I want to acknowledge your hard work in the lead up to the referendum. And thank you for being a voice for our people and fighting for our people and for our next generation. And for a better Australia, and your work never goes unnoticed. My name is Natasha Brunhuber. I'm a Jurunganj Yuin woman from the far south coast of New South Wales, and I'm a survivor. Today I want to read to you all my story that I wrote for the National Centre in hopes that I can help First Nations children, teens and even adults understand that what has happened to us was not our fault, it should have never happened, and it's okay to seek help. My story of trauma, pain and heartache starts when I'm a little girl. She grew up hiding behind smiles, good behaviour. No one around her suspected she was dying inside. Every day she's reminded that it wasn't survivors who hurt her, but her own family. People she trusted, cared for deeply and loved. She didn't know she had a choice. She was frozen in fear. She didn't know what it would do to her throughout her life. Every relationship would suffer because of her inability to trust. And every person she met would be kept at a distance in fear of being hurt again. She didn't know that it would mould and change her to become someone she did not want to be. With her spirit broken in pieces, she was powerless and not in control of her being. Each day she was masking her authentic self because she thought no one would love the real me. No child should ever carry the pain and suffering I have, and no child should be left wondering if anyone loves them, and no child should cry themselves to sleep, begging for their life to end. My childhood was stolen from me, but I have learnt to survive, and I refuse to let the actions of others take any more from me. I'll forever carry that little girl with me, and each day I'll try my best to give her the love and safety she deserved. I am proud and privileged to be in the position I am in my life, to be able to share my story and finally begin my journey of healing. I know that many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are not as privileged to be in the position I am, as there's many barriers we face when accessing the same services as non-Indigenous peoples. My hope for the National Centre is to remove those barriers so that all First Nations people can have access to the same services non-Indigenous people have, that are trauma-aware, healing-informed, culturally safe and appropriate, mental health and healing services that centre our people and our culture. I hope that I can be a person that I needed growing up and for others, and maybe I can inspire other people to speak up and speak their truth and seek help. If I can help just one child, one teen, and one adult begin their journey of healing, then I will have achieved my job for joining the First Nations College. We are not and will not be defined by someone else's actions, and I stand in my strength knowing that our ancestors continue to guide us every step of the way, and we are never alone. I want to give a huge thank you to my colleagues on the First Nations College, tongue twister, for always being brave to speak up and challenge systems, and at the National Centre for listening to our voice and committing to real change. The work we do here together will have a lasting impact that I hope will change attitudes and perceptions of speaking about child sexual abuse. And I'm proud to say that the National Centre absolutely refuses to accept the disgusting claims that Peter Dutton and Jacinta Price have said. The First Nations College and the National Centre are drafting a statement that will directly respond to those claims. The journey won't be easy. There'll be times where we don't get it right, but we all have a responsibility to stand up against racism and race-based violence to keep our people and our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm old school. I have to get out paper. Haven't quite advanced to the mobile phone yet. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to start with just a quick quote from Buddha. Thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness, change, and contentment never decreases by being shared. This is how I see the National Centre, my bright candle that is creating awareness, sharing the need for change, and providing the catalyst for action. For 50 odd years, I lived in darkness. Hidden away in my cave and surrounded by so much shame, guilt, anxiety, and deep depression, fear, anger, and rage, though mostly at myself. Sadness and isolated, exhausted, invisible, and constantly dissociating. All these emotions and feelings creating an unsafe place for me, where I was full of self-loathing, disgust, and weakness, leaving me totally overwhelmed. Yet to the outside world, none of this was evident because of the brilliant facade that we are able to present to the outside world. Mainly because I was unable to disclose or to talk to anyone. And to be honest, 40, 50 years ago, who would have believed me anyway? That was until my mind and body could no longer sustain itself and my world collapsed around me, leaving me living on the streets and constantly in and out of mental wards, fighting so many mental and physical health battles and therefore constantly trying to end my life. All that changed several years ago when I discovered my purpose. After my 12th attempt to end my pain and suffering, I woke up and had conversations with the various personas that exist in my world, and they said very clearly and very strongly to me, Paul, for an intelligent man, you're pretty bloody stupid, mate. It's obviously not your time to go, is it? Why is it that someone always finds you at the right time? Very hard to argue with that argument. Challenge was to find out what that purpose was. Part of it was, part of that journey, part of that revelation for me was to the right behind me was a wonderful woman, Dr. Kathy Kieselman and the Blue Knot Foundation, who I met many years ago and helped me name and confront my deep demons. The second big revelation for me was to actually be invited to be a member of the Adult-Led Survivor College and to be a peer assessor and most recently to work on the National Advisory Council. That was allowed me to develop the purpose that I have in life. That allowed me to realise that all of that lived and living experience can actually add some value, bring some change, bring some purpose, bring some awareness. So those were the two sort of major revelations that occurred for me. Sorry. The other part that I just wanted to add was being part of the college is that they are like another family for me. A family where I feel safe, a family where my voice is heard, a voice where it is acknowledged and encouraged to speak out. And I thank all of my colleagues here because you do make me feel safe and you do make me find my voice and speak out. Not only for myself, but for those who can't speak up, because what has happened and continues to happen must end. And as I quite often say, it's my little pebble in the pond that is beginning to make waves of progress. Like a marathon, which is a bit strange in my position, I will keep pushing. I wrote running, but I'll keep pushing and fighting for the cause against childhood sex abuse. I will keep normalising these conversations. We need to have these conversations. No longer will people like myself stay in the dark. So if I ever tell you about my past, it's not because I want your sympathy or to feel sorry for me, but so you can understand why I am and who I am. And I'd like to leave you with one challenge, one last thought. And it's a simple statement from Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Thank you.
How do I come after that? That was a beautiful quote. I just want to start by acknowledging the Ngunnawal elders whose lands we're gathered on today. My name's Amanda Morgan. I'm a proud Yorta Yorta woman and a member of the Adult Survivor College. I was sexually abused as an infant first and then as a 5-year-old and as a teenager. And actually I've never shared this story before, but when I was a teenager, my email address was hacked and members of my friendship group, male members of my friendship group, were sent an email offering oral sex. And one of those males actually arrived at my house and asked if the offer was available. And I was 15 and he was significantly older than me. So I share that because there's a bit of an emphasis right now on e-safety, and we're talking about dating apps, but forget about the good old email. But what I want to really also hone in on is how exhausted I am. Just really, really exhausted. The referendum result was a really difficult pill to swallow, and I think some people were expecting it, but I wasn't. And I want to touch on also, Tash has already talked about it, but Peter Dutton and the suggestion that the Royal Commission is required is not only ridiculous, but it just highlights yet again how many times the government fails us, and rather than taking accountability, they deflect. I want to point, though, to a couple of things. I take a lot of strength from Aboriginal matriarchs like Chelsea Wadigo and Larissa Barrett. Chelsea has always said, don't have hope in government, have hope in us. Not even hope, just stand in your sovereignty. Larissa Barrett last week at the National Indigenous Law Conference said, it's about nation building. People keep asking us what's next. It's about nation building. And to be honest, I really feel like that's a lesson that survivors can take, is that we have to stop relying on royal commissions and reports and people telling us what we need, because actually each and every single one of us knows exactly what we need. To come back to my personal story, my grandfather, my father and my brother are all convicted perpetrators, and I decided enough is enough. I'm going to be different to them. I'm going to break the circuit. So I went on to study law and psychology. I've got a Churchill Fellowship now looking at trauma-informed lawyering, and I'm going to start my PhD next year. And what I want to say to everyone here is that sovereignty isn't just about Aboriginal communities. We can apply that same principle to our community. Each and every single one of us standing up here has the skill set and the qualifications and the lived experience. And we need to be reminded of that. We need to remind ourselves of that and stand in that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Ooh, wow, big words to follow. Hello to Auntie Violet, and welcome, and thank you so much for your welcome and your very kind words. Thank you, Auntie Violet. My name's Robbie Gambley. I'm from Casino, which is up on the northern rivers of New South Wales. Good afternoon, you fine folks. It is such an honour to speak here today in this grand old building, Australia's original Federal Parliament House in Canberra. Australia's new National Centre is the organisation that will help society become more aware of the damage of child sexual abuse and its lifelong impacts. I was recently told, you have to get over it, get on with your life. This was a very hurtful, obtuse statement. There is no magic wand or cure, just care and hard work. Healing can be lifelong. The members of the Survivor-led Adult College, with their lived and living experience of child sexual abuse, have tragically endured but are also surviving their ordeal. They have a very powerful story to tell, as sadly they hold compelling information. The stark reality is, though, some people who are abused as innocent, beautiful children do not survive their torment and just cannot cope. Their angelic young lives end far too early. This is a hideous, evil crime of child sexual abuse. The National Centre has worked alongside the members of the Survivor-led Adult College, brave people, to build the very foundations of this structure, one which will work to help survivors, strive to protect precious children, prevent child sexual abuse, and empower society. I would also like to say to people, survivors of abuse, whom I call brave people, because they are brave people. Please do not suffer in silence. Please confide in someone you feel comfortable with. I know this can be hard, but this changes your life. Do not live with the terrible dark secret alone. It is a grim, horrible place to be. I know, I have been there. You do not have to worry about going to the police and doing that work. Please start working with a social worker or psychologist, someone that will help you. There are guides and help with the Blue Knot Foundation and the National Centre. You can start the healing process. You can start now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robbie. Hi, I'm Scarlett. You know what morphine is? Okay, so buprenorphine is up to 100 times stronger than morphine, and I've got to wear a patch on my leg 24 hours a day to deliver that morphine, that buprenorphine to my system. And I'm going to give you a clue why I've got to have that patch. The doctor I see is a pain interventionist gynecologist, right? I also have to spend a couple of weeks every year in the hospital receiving an inpatient ketamine infusion. I don't understand why people take ketamine for fun. It's really not fun. But yeah, I just want people to know that child sexual abuse survivors are victims not only of their perpetrators, but of the systems that are ostensibly there to serve and support us, but which often betray us and let us down. You know, I often hear health professionals ask me, this happened to you in Australia, not overseas. And I say, yeah, organised child sexual abuse happened in Australia. Half of all sexual assaults in Australia are committed against a child. If you enter an emergency room in an Australian hospital with a bleed on the brain because you've been in a car accident, you can reasonably expect to get urgent medical care, loads of people flapping about you, freaking out. But if you enter an emergency room in an ambulance with a bleed on the brain as a result of child sexual abuse, as a result of self-injury that you're suffering from child sexual abuse, you can reasonably expect to be stigmatised and turned away and not even given medical care. And perhaps if you are given medical care, deemed unworthy of local anaesthesia or pain relief. I have a diagnosis of something called dissociative identity disorder. And whatever you think of the utility of psychiatric diagnoses, I'm also here in solidarity with people that are survivors of early, prolonged, severe, often sadistic, sometimes ritual abuse, organised child sexual abuse. It's a big umbrella that's often overlooked. The normal process of integration that we all go through as children, if we have caring adults around us, is disrupted when the child is put into this terrible double bind where the very people they depend on for food and shelter and all that jazz are also the people that are violating and betraying them. Oftentimes this abuse begins in pre-verbal childhood. You know, going back to being a survivor of not only child sexual abuse, but of the child protection system and the housing system and the welfare system and all those guys, you know, so much could be different if we recognised that child sexual abuse makes you vulnerable to further abuse and that the earlier we can intervene, the more we can avoid. So when I became homeless at 16 and suffered homelessness through the rest of high school, you know, the gang rape and other assaults that happened to me as a teenager while I was living like that, they never should have happened. You know, this really could have been stopped a lot earlier, and then I promise you I would be much less expensive to the government, having been, you know, a disability support pension recipient since I'm 21 and now being on NDIS. There is no possibility, in my experience, of true healing and transformation, of sustained healing, while people continue to lack access to safety and to their basic, you know, secure housing and income. So what makes me nervous when I speak about something like this is how angry I feel. I feel so angry. I feel so grateful to be in a room of people who probably share that anger with me. And I think we can take a leaf from Audre Lorde and we can use that anger and we can allow it to drive us to be a part of the multinational, multi-generational effort that's required to make change. I want child sexual exploitation to be recognised as the public health and national security crisis that it is, with a commensurate whole-of-government response. I want men and boys and society at large to recognise the role of porn consumption and culture in child sexual abuse. I want health and disability sectors to recognise the profound, sometimes lifelong impacts of child sexual abuse, including dissociative disorders and traumatic brain injuries and self-harm. I want my fellow members of the LGBT+ community to reject and to stand up against attempts to include child sex offenders as members, insultingly enough, of the community of marginalised sexualities. And I want to see offenders who repeatedly offend against children as part of organised networks to remain incarcerated for as long as they are a danger to children. I want tech companies, I want internet platforms regulated so that they are no longer facilitating the exploitation of children and the operations of organised pedophiles. I want to see Australia make the investment in CSA prevention that is commensurate with the present day cost of these crimes. My first suicide attempt was when I was 9, and my last one left me in a coma in the ICU for 9 days. So, you know, I think if you made a television series, a Netflix series about my life, people wouldn't enjoy it because they would think it's too... They would think it's too ludicrous that one person could be so unlucky. They would just think, right, this is melodramatic. This can't all happen to one person. But I am a very lucky person, truly. And we need these stories told so that we can bring political will to this agenda, so that we can all get behind the incredible work of the National Centre. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, because as I said, I'm also a survivor. I was groomed at 4 and started being abused by 6, raped at 13, by a really, really swish, well-to-do doctorate of Baroque music and because of these fancy guys. I mean, once upon a time they said that if you're a man of upstanding character, you could not be convicted of any kind of sexual crime. Well, we need to change all that. When my daughter turned 4, and I went, well, why on earth would anybody look at a child sexually? This is disgusting. I found out that my abuser had been named Senior Citizen of the Year, and he was still teaching music to children. And I just thought, well, no, not on my watch. That's not going to happen. And I went through the long process of having him prosecuted, knowing that in Australia, that the chances of being prosecuted were really slim. And by the time we went to court in 2010, I ended up with a DPP lawyer, and I just knew my case was just going to die in the arse because she didn't get it. She did not get it, what I'd gone through and what was happening. And at the last minute, a QC, he looked just like Bud Tingle from The Castle. He swanned in, and he... I think my grandmother was behind that. She was dead by that time. He swanned in, he said, I know about people like this, and we're going to get him. And I said, I want the name suppression order dropped. And I said it to him 3 times. And so when we went into court, that was the first thing he asked, for the name suppression order to be dropped, and it was done. They didn't expect that. But I thought, it's not my shame to carry. It's not my shame, and I do not need to hide behind a name suppression order when he is the person who should be outed and shamed. And he did have his name on the front page of the paper. He only went to jail for 18 months, It's kind of inconsequential, but it was depending on the time that the offences happened, so the 70s and 80s. But he did go, and I thought it's a brick in the wall to making positive change, and we all need to speak out. Because I remember years ago hearing on the radio someone saying it would take 100 years to stop child abuse from happening. And I was eating my breakfast. I remember spraying muesli all over the radio going, ah! There's still probably muesli stuck in the speakers now. But in 2 years, COVID completely changed our lives. And why? Because it affected every single man, woman and child. And abuse to children and violence towards children and women and men affects all of us and affects all of our lives. And so we can make positive, palpable changes in 2 years, in 10 years. It is not going to take 100 years to stop this insidious evil that exists in our society, the big elephant in the room. But I know that the reason I healed was because of the love of my grandmother, the love of a QC that just swanned in to help me, the love of a community that allowed me to get access to mental health care, free access to mental health care. We need more of that. And eventually it came to self-love for me. And self-love and self-healing, I think, is a way through. And so I'm going to sing you a song that I wrote called Love Your Life. You are rich in your lives. You are valued beyond price. And you know that this life has meaning. There are problems, there are tears, there are sorrows. You know we all have fears, and we travel through this world all alone. Well, meet your pain with understanding, stress less and love more. Take the time to reconnect to yourself, what you waiting for. Now's the time for the taking. Be free, live your life. Love your life, love that life, love your life, love yourself. Oh, there are times I get frightened. There are things that I don't know, but I try. Lord knows I try to do my best, live the life that I choose. And I know that it's worth it. And I know this love is real. And I care what you are feeling tonight. And this time is not certain. The future is never clear. One thing for certain, I know that I wish you love. I wish you love. I wish you love. I wish you love. Make me cry. Oh man, you guys are gonna make me cry. Thank you. Love is the answer, love is the way, love heals the wounds it makes. So, thank you. Okay, thanks for that. That's probably the best reaction I've ever had to that song ever. And I feel so safe with you all, and I'm so excited for the positive change that we are making together, the stand that we're taking. Okay, I'm going to throw now to a video message from the chair of the National Centre, Joe Tucci.
Hi everybody, I'm Joe Tucci. I'm the chair of the National Centre. I'm really sorry I can't be with you all today. It's a really important day, a really important event, the first AGM of the National Centre. And in starting, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm standing on, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and also acknowledge that personally and as the chair of the National Centre, we're committed to reconciliation and to trying to find a way to establish treaty. I also want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the spirit of survivors of child sexual abuse. Without them, without their courage, without all of you, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in today to be able to work towards a better future for children who've experienced abuse and for adult survivors as well. I'd like to thank all the college members who've been speaking before me. I'm sure that they have provided some incredibly moving and thoughtful points for all of us to take away. The National Centre has done a whole lot of work in this year to get itself ready to launch its future plans and its future strategies. We really want to make a difference to the way that the country and as a society, we respond to the needs of children who've experienced child sexual abuse, as well as to the victims and survivors of it. We want to make a difference in a way that isn't more of the same. Unless we disrupt, unless we find new ways of thinking, unless we find and resolve some of the problems that the community and everyone has faced in trying to deal with this subject, we're not going to progress our commitments to people, and we're not going to be able to, as a nation, move forward. So the National Centre stands out for its work. It stands out because it's trying to make a real difference in the future. We've got a strategy that's called Here for Change, and that's going to be really important. It looks at 7 key challenges that the community has to deal with, and at the National Centre, along with partners and with other agencies and with the community in general, victims and survivors, and First Nations people will come together to make a real difference into the future. So I'm delighted to be able to say after our first year that we've made some incredible progress, but there's still a long way to go. I'd like to thank the board. I'd like to thank all of the old directors who've been on this journey for a long time, from the Healing Foundation, from Blue Knot Foundation and from the Australian Childhood Foundation, plus the new ones that have just come on board. The staff have been incredible, and I'd like to say thank you to all of them and acknowledge their commitment and their hard work and effort. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank DSS and Knox for their partnership, for their trust in us to get the National Centre up and running and realise its achievements. It will take a collective effort to have an impact on child sexual abuse. And I'm really pleased that we're going to take the first steps in the next few years of being part of that collective commitment. So continue to reflect on what this event means, and I look forward to seeing you very soon in person. Thanks.
Hello. I didn't introduce myself before, did I? I'm Leanne Beagley. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the CEO at the National Centre, and it's a great honour to be here today. And I hope that people at home have got their cup of tea, but I won't speak for long because I just want to listen, actually, today. It's been very moving, thank you. As Joe said, the National Centre is here for change. It's both a statement of intent and it's a call to action for our stakeholder community. We can't do this by ourselves. There's been a great road journey of hope and vision that's got us here. Lots of great expectations about what the National Centre can do. Goes for pages. And here we are together to celebrate the launch of our first annual report. Our ethos here for change embodies this once-in-a-generation opportunity to reshape the conversation and to create a paradigm shift in our approach to responding to child sexual abuse and its often lifelong impacts. To create real change, we're seeking to build in the voices of victims and survivors to shape our work and our knowledge and our leadership to ensure that it's useful, authentic and appropriate. That's why it's been an honour to walk alongside our Victim and Survivor College members who've set the tone for this annual report by sharing their experience of the establishment of the National Centre with their stories to the forefront. I would also like to pay tribute to our First Nations College, thanking them for their engagement with us, especially when it creates work and when it feels exhausting and burdened. We stand with you in the post-referendum world and we commit to keep going, just keeping going. And as Tash said earlier, another Royal Commission focused on child sexual abuse in Indigenous communities is not supported by the National Centre. In setting the foundations for the National Centre, we're proud of having activated a governance and advisory structure that frames opportunities for broad engagement and guidance with those with expertise to ensure that the establishment and what we do and our priorities for action are sound and clear. So like any good annual report, the CEO reports on internal processes and things we've been doing to set things up. Financial management system, risk management framework, procurement processes, HR and people processes. We've built a strong team and we're excited for this next year. We're in a strong financial position, having carefully balanced the resourcing needs with the establishment priorities, and we've begun to expand our workforce. You can have a look at our annual report, the financials on the website today, and the annual report, in fact, if that's something you'd really like to do. The financials will be there. We're very proud that we got a unmodified audit result. Pointing in the report also to the development and details of our practice development program, the in-house and funded research program, and those priority areas and how they're linked to Here for Change. The National Centre Board has held their vision through the challenges of this establishment year and provided a sound foundation for us as an operational team to take things forward. Now my iPad just went, it's back, very good. Their support for me as the new CEO has been unwavering and I'm very grateful to them to have together to responded with a strong working relationship which will frame all of our efforts as we go forward. The people are our finest resource and we've been welcoming new staff to the team, it felt like every week, as the team's expanded. I'd like to pay tribute to them all and especially to the three directors, Alyssa and Andrea and Scott. On behalf of the whole team, I'd like to thank you, our stakeholder community, for your welcome and your advice and your active collaboration. We look forward to working with you, but we ask you to keep pushing us to achieve the vision. Keep supporting us to develop our work. Keep being our critical friends when we get it wrong or we need to do it better. And keep being patient because things don't happen overnight. I would like to finish with reading out to you a message that I received via our online info web form yesterday. Hi there. I'm contacting you today. I must say I got a lot of these. This is just an example. I'm contacting you today as I'm interested in getting involved. I'm a child sexual assault survivor and finding it difficult in finding support. I want to learn to advocate for people just like me or similar. Would love to hear from you as I've read a lot about you and what you do. I just want to find a community where I feel like myself. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
So we're here for change, progressive, compassionate change. But we're also here for change. The difficult conversations are being had, and these conversations must keep being had until this violence stops. We must talk about this frequently, at barbecues, at gatherings, over dinners. We need to normalise these conversations, normalise finding solutions, sitting in the discomfort, communicating honestly and openly. Our voices can get lost when we are made victims, and as survivors, we get our voices back. And so many have not found their voices yet. One of the best things that we can do together and as a society is to listen to survivors and advocate for them. Let victims guide the conversations. Listen to the stories. Wait to see if advice is asked for. Without judgment, actively listen. Hear for change. We want to be heard, not fixed. And if you feel uncomfortable hearing the story, try imagining living through the story. Every individual can make a difference, and together we can make radical changes. So let's normalise hearing all and healing for all. As a caring community, we can create strategic love and recovery and safety for all. And we are all cycle breakers. Everyone here is a cycle breaker. And at home, be a cycle breaker. And in time, may we be a healthy society that supports everybody, every soul in thriving. Hear, hear. Thank you.
We will say farewell to our online people. Thank you for joining us today. You go and read the financial reports. But thank you for joining us. And we're going to have some drinks and some nibbles, and that's the end. And can you just join me again in thanking Malika? What a brilliant job. And say hello to each other.